My goodness, what a room. Can we just take a moment to have a look around and see the powerful women in this room? Extraordinary. Ladies, you are running the world. Bravo. Welcome everybody to the Women's Progress Dialogue. I'm Kasia Madeira. I'm a correspondent and anchor for the BBC for far more years than I actually want to admit to. Great plastic surgeon, excuse the joke. I say ladies, but this is sisters, a sisterhood of women that really can make a difference. And that is what it is all about today. We know that approximately 30 countries, maybe even just 20, are doing all right in the world when it comes to women's issues, women's rights. But there are around 160 that are just failing miserably. And today, what the World Forum wants to do is for us to name and shame them, call it out, because we need to work out who is doing good and who is doing not so good. And let's face it, there are quite a few that are doing appallingly. And I know a few of you are from those countries. So what we hope to achieve by the end of this session, and we're running a little bit late, so we'll cut it a little bit shorter, but we want to then feed back to Madam Secretary of State who is doing well in terms of nations, who isn't, what support do they need, and we want to create a women's group that really pushes, monitors, and scrutinizes and holds these countries to account. It's not a small feat, right? I appreciate that, but we want a really, really frank conversation. And then afterwards, you will feed back to the rest of the forum. So please, firstly, it's wonderful to see you all here. Thank you so much for coming. Secondly, let me introduce onto the stage the US Secretary of State, the Vice President of the US, and let's just say, the President of the United States, the People's President, Hillary Clinton. Big round of applause, everybody. Let's get the energy going.
Well, good morning. I am so happy to be here with some of my longtime friends and colleagues in the effort to promote women's rights and opportunities around the world, and some new faces who I know will become colleagues in this ongoing effort. I'm delighted to be back in Berlin for the World Forum, and I want to thank everyone who has helped us put it together. I think back to that time in 1995 when I spoke in Beijing and said that women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights. It was true then, it's true now, and we've made progress in a number of sectors. But I think it's fair to say that we find ourselves at a moment in history when there is tremendous pushback against women's autonomy and agency and rights and opportunities. That goes hand in hand with the retreat of democracy around the world. I've just published an article in Foreign Affairs about how women's rights are really the canary in the coal mine. When you see authoritarian regimes, whether it's in Putin's Russia or the Taliban in Afghanistan, who are pushing back on women's roles in the public arena, that is a clear sign because of the suppression of women's voices and the restriction of their opportunities and the rollback of their fundamental freedoms, that democracy is eroding or is not even anywhere on the horizon. We've watched this pattern before. Attacks on women's rights weaken democracy and strengthen the hands of dictators. This is not by accident, it is by design. Authoritarianism depends on limiting who gets to participate, who gets to decide, who counts, who sits at the table. And women's full equality threatens that model. which is why gatherings like this to keep our voices strong and united is so important. I've also learned over many years that what gets measured gets changed. The idea behind this forum to publish an annual data-driven report tracking women's advancement across UN member states can help fill a void. We need a clear, shared, credible baseline of progress and of pushback. Not rhetoric, not wishful thinking, but hard facts and evidence. Because after all, despite the efforts by political leaders in many parts of the world, including in my own country, and the determination by tech oligarchs to decide what we see, what we learn, what we think is true, facts tell us what is actually happening and where action is needed. Facts also enable advocates like us to demand better, to hold governments to account, to hold corporations to account. It will not only tell us how far we've come, but how far we still have to go. So therefore, if we find a way to examine where women stand when it comes to everything from education and healthcare to personal safety, online as well as in the real world, economic opportunity and political power, whether women can start a business, cast a ballot, walk down a street without fear, then we are not just measuring the status of women. We are measuring the health of democracies. I think that's a really important point because too often those who are against democracy and those who are against women's advancement try to marginalize the issues of women's advancement, try to undermine the importance of women's rights because they know that if we continue to speak out and progress on that front, it strengthens democratic forces. It undermines authoritarian power. So no country has ever made advances in the status of women without recognizing and respecting the potential of women. And it's never happened automatically. It has only happened through struggle, through the recognition that rights without power are powerless. And it happens because people like the women in this room insist upon it. So I am delighted to be here, to be part of this forum, to be your partner in this ongoing effort. I think we stand at a particularly dangerous point. There are women in this room who have literally put their lives on the line, women who have been detained, women who have been attacked, women who have been exiled from their countries because of the authoritarian, dictatorial approaches to suppressing people, suppressing their voices, suppressing our political agency, and so often that starts with and continues with women. So let's have a good, vigorous conversation and hopefully find ways that we can keep pushing the women's rights, our human rights, because it depends upon whether or not we live in peace and security as equal members of our societies. Thank you.
Madam Secretary of State, thank you so much. A really inspiring start to what I hope, do I have a microphone on? I hope you can all hear me. I think I can project my voice. That was super inspiring. We have a seat at this table, and this is what absolutely counts, that we get the conversation going, and we're going to thrash it out, and we want to really be honest with each other about what needs to be done. So let's introduce our first speaker, a person I know very well over the years now, the President of Lithuania, Dalia Grybauskaitė. Thank you.
Already Hillary mentioned that human rights is not only women's rights, but also the right to democracy. Because today, especially now, we see that only democracy can guarantee the women's rights, minority rights, and the security rights, social security, and also even conventional military security for the smaller and medium countries. And we are today pushed in opposite direction. And why, for me, battle for women's rights is a battle for democracy, battle for security, and pushing hard against terrorists, against military terrorists, Russia in our neighborhood. It is some aggressive pushes against human rights even in the United States, and Hillary was not able maybe to say it openly, but we can say it. And that example which we always cherished about democracy in the US as our partner, not anymore example for us. And we need even to protect ourselves from the attempts to dictate to us from United States how we need to live, what we need to think, and how we need to protect women's rights. And it's very, very awful. And this is a new dynamic in the world, which is complicating our rights, complicating our situation. If beforehand we were talking that the general wealth gap is around the century, 123 years between the genders. But with this new dynamics, this large emerging large fight between large powers probably will push and complicate the human rights around the world in general, not only women's rights. New revolution in technologies and technological oligarchs also are fitting into this picture because the most algorithms already confirmed that they're working against women the first, then minorities and children even. So that's new dynamic, new reality in which we work, and that again complicates but also makes for us a challenge. We need and we know where our problems are, and we need to have enough political will in our countries to push it back. Europe, we try to do it via, of course, joint legislation against technological oligarchs' dominance and misuse of their algorithms and power in European Union. We're introducing the laws making the quotas for the management position. For example, from this year, from June, there will be obligatory to have 30% of women in the management positions in the businesses. That's by law in all European Union countries. I personally was not very enjoying and happy about the quotas, and I thought that women need to fight themselves by their quality, but not by quotas. But now more and more I see that quotas, at least an example in Nordic countries, helped women to put them up a little bit. And now with this business quotas in European Union, this will be a very serious step forward. So we need to use legislation, we need to use pushback, we need to have courage, even to say to our larger partners in the West, for my example, to stop pushing and doing harm. And that's how we can and should talk with our friends, not to trying to please, but to trying to be partners. And that's our challenge now in Europe and around the world, probably in most of our regions. And for women, we're becoming the very serious part of the force which is protecting democratic development and democracy around the world. And that's, together with our gender channel, this is gender problems. We are fighters for democracy and for our kids and for the future of our societies. And so that means that responsibility on our shoulders is increasing. It's always been huge and large in societies, but now it's even more increased because the tendency is becoming more and more aggressive against human rights in general. So thank you.
Dalia, thank you so much. Thank you. Fighters for democracy, I think that's what it's all about. Our next, if we could just pass the microphone now to the president-elect of Belarus, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. We saw each other at Munich. We're all hot-footing it here to Berlin. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Kasia, dear Secretary Clinton, dear Hillary, Excellencies, dear friends. I am so grateful for this possibility to be here, and thank you to organizers and the Cinema for Peace Foundation. You know that my path to politics started only five 5 years ago, and I still feel like newcomer, still learning to be politician, and I'm so grateful to all of you for teaching me. And of course, the fight for women's rights is global, but I think in dictatorships it's much, much harder, to fight for women. Maybe you know that in 2020 I stepped in for my arrested husband in the presidential run. And dictator Lukashenko registered me only as a joke. He always said that our constitution is not for women. And he thought that women are not supposed to rule anything but the household. I think that he probably have never heard about Golda Meir or Indira Gandhi, Margaret Thatcher, President Grybauskaitė or Chaputova or Vera Yurova or Huma Abedin. So, and the funny thing is that at one moment I almost agreed with him, because I was born in patriarchal society where women were empowered only on paper. But I challenged the dictator in the elections out of defiance and out of love to my husband and to my country. And imagine how ashamed he was to lose to a woman, a housewife, a mother, or meatball cook, as they called me in Belarus. And I think that dictator underestimated the women's strength. Often when journalists ask me what prepared most me for politics, I always answer being a mother, because you learn crisis management, you learn how to negotiate and how to survive on very little sleep. Of course, I wouldn't have won without my team, my friends around me, and the Belarusian people behind me, especially Belarusian women. Our revolution is sometimes called a revolution with a women's face. Our women in white faced armed policemen with their bare hands holding only flowers, and they became a legend. The dictator managed to suppress our peaceful resistance by brutal violence, but our uprising, our resistance continues. Hundreds of thousands had to flee the country. Many of them joined Belarusian volunteer forces fighting in Ukraine freedom. Our women are also among these volunteers. One of them, Maria Zaitseva, who in 2020 was wounded by a police grenade in Minsk. And 2 years later, after Putin invaded Ukraine, she went to Kiev to help Ukrainians. A year ago, she lost her life in battle, and she was only 24 years old. In exile, we created resilient democratic structures, institutions of our civil society, independent media, businesses, NGOs, and many of them are led by women. And I'm really proud to be part of this movement. And I'm so proud to have so many powerful women among our movement's allies and my personal friends and teachers, like Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, Roberta Metsola, Annalena Baerbock, Ursula von der Leyen, Kaja Kallas, Maya Sandu, and many, many others, true champions of freedom. I always say that more women in politics would mean more wisdom, more empathy, and more win-win decisions. What makes me sad is that more than 170 Belarusian women remain political prisoners. Some of them were detained during event 2020. Somebody were arrested when they protested in 2022 against the war. In jail, our women face harassment, abuse, beatings, and tortures. They have fewer rights than ordinary prisoners. And this is something that we must stop, of course. And I hope very much that our female solidarity around the world will help to release these women. As one of my heroines, Madeleine Albright, once said that there is a special place in the hell for women who don't help other women. Of course, she was half joking, but I think that there is a special place in the history for women who lived each other. Solidarity among women is more than kindness. It is our strength, our strategy. It is how we endure. So let's exchange our experience and our energy of love and friendship. Unity is our strength, as President Zelensky said in Munich, and united, I'm sure we will stand and we will win. Thank you.
Thank you, Svetlana. Thank you for reminding us that 170 women are political prisoners right now. It's so powerful to hear you say that. Thank you. It's devastating, absolutely devastating, and we're going to call it out today. Please pass on the microphone to Tzipi Livni, the first female Israeli Vice Prime Minister, who joins us now. Tzipi, I invite you to say some words.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation. I'll try to share also from my own experience. And I should confess that before I joined politics and before I had any public position, if you had asked me whether there's a need for affirmative action or legislation for women, for gender equality, I would have said, no, we are strong enough, we know who we are, we will manage without help, thank you. And then I was nominated to be the general manager of the Government Companies Authority, meaning that representing the government in all the government entities. And I saw that in the board of directors, in these very huge companies, although we are more or around 50%, only 3% of women were in the board. And why is that? Because the politicians, the ministers that nominate the members of the board, they want to in a way to reward their own political supporters, mainly men. But 2 years before I joined, before I had this position, an affirmative not action legislation was passed in the parliament about fair representation. So I used this article, went to each and every minister, and you can imagine when I said to Minister of Defense that in the Israeli defense company needs to be women, otherwise I will not agree that he will nominate men. Because defense is something that men believe that this is their own monopoly. So years later, when I was already in the parliament, in the government, and I was a member of the security government, I discovered how important it is to have women dealing with security. Because the men that are in the security cabinet are usually generals who came from the army, and their perspective is very narrow. Because what they feel is security, what they know about security is what the army can do. But security, the perspective, what can be taken is much more broader. So after dealing with Israel security, and I believe successfully, I decided to run for office, to be the prime minister. For me, it was the obvious. And then I heard these voices of men politicians and their supporters. Who's going to answer the phone 3 a.m.? I mean, they are not against a woman answering the phone and saying, just a moment, I'm giving you the prime minister. But the idea that prime minister is a woman was something that was very difficult for them to accept. And they tried to use it. And to my surprise, and this is something that really gave me hope in the times, I found women supporting me even regardless to my ideology. And they said, run, because when you are there, we know that it gives us strength. Not only in politics, in job, to ask for fair salaries, or to say to our partners, you cannot do this and that. And I felt that they give me strength as I give them a strength back. And the most touching moment was in one of the rallies. It was with a group of new immigrants who came from Ethiopia. And they have their own, problems within the society for integration. And 2 young girls at the age of 12 came with flowers to the stage to give me the flowers. And one of them said, I also want to be the prime minister when I'm old, when I grew up. And for me, I said, okay, well, I was not elected. Well, I got the popular votes and was not elected. I think that, Hillary, that sounds familiar. Because Netanyahu succeeded in forming the bloc with the ultra-Orthodox in Israel. But yet I felt that, okay, by being there also we are empowering other women. And now Israel, I'll refer to it later, but now Israel is passing changes, more authoritarian as in leadership, more religious and more religious parties without even one woman on board. The status of women is deteriorating. I have some ideas how to solve it, or how to meet these challenges, but I'll take the other round to speak about this. Thank you.
Sippy, thank you. Yeah, round of applause, because this is what it's all about. It's so frustrating that 21st century and the status of women is deteriorating. We're going backwards, not forwards. This room is going to take us forward. Right. Please pass the microphone back down to Tawakkol Karman, the Nobel Peace Laureate, Yemeni journalist and human rights activist. We're going to get that microphone to you. A few words from you, because we can't be deteriorating, but
Okay.
so frustrating.
Thank you so much. First, I'm so happy to meet with Hillary Clinton after 15 years from our Arab Spring. She visited us in Yemen, and they told me that after Hillary Clinton visited Yemen, the peaceful revolution came. She is the resource of that. So, but I was always saying that no, this is the result of Yemeni people, of the Khariji people. But I know if Hillary Clinton be the president of the United States, the United States will not make conspiracy against, the peaceful revolution. So now I'm talking about this document, about the indication, about the reports about women, and I noticed many things. There's a good that this the report classified the countries to three levels. One is the progress level, and other countries is in decline, and the last one is attacking women's rights. But what I noticed that there is in the progress countries there is a UK, for example, and this. Excuse me, Chair. Yeah. So with this, with the what I noticed in this thing that we have to make when we classify the countries, we should also putting on account the behavior of the country toward women's rights in other countries. It is not just a local issue. Yes, UK or other, they respect women's rights in UK, for example, but they don't respect women's rights in other countries when they support dictators, when they support occupation, when they send weapons, when they sell weapons, and so, and when they silence, in front of the war crimes. This is number one. Number two, it's very important to support and to take account the struggle of women, and especially you, Mrs. President, of Belarus, about our struggle against dictators. Our struggle against dictators, because the struggle against dictators is really struggle for women's rights. The struggles for democracy, for expression rights, it's struggle for women's rights. So what happened, again, though, and I don't want to go to my personal struggle, but in general with Arab Spring, women's rights was attacked by the counter-revolution led by regional countries, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Emirates, and with the support from power countries like United States and like United Kingdom. So they are the countries that said they support women's rights, but they are the countries who backed the counter-revolution, or at least silence. This is number two. Number three, which is I will end my comment with it. Now, our struggle is very, very much bigger than before. Much bigger than before. I always rise, and as I said, the first struggle for women is to fight dictatorship to gain her women's rights. And this is dictatorship in our local, arena. Now we need to fight the global dictatorship. The global dictatorship that attacking the global system, the global order. So we are talking about accountability, which is very important. I'm so happy of this. We are talking about who will take the lead of accountability. The United Nations doesn't have that, ability to do. Security Council doesn't have that. They played with double standards. They played with veto, etc. And the United Nations itself, it weaks. So what our struggle as a woman is to reform the global world order to be a just global order that really work for law and order, to reform it. But now the biggest challenge, that the global order is collapsing under the global dictators. And this led by Donald Trump himself, the leader of the dictatorship in the world. And this is now our really forget. We will not be able to do anything of this. Any kind of observation, any kind of accountability, any kind of human rights, any kind of development, if Donald Trump stay in the power in United States. This is not just a politics talk. This is women's rights. So if we have to support American people, to support democracy in America to prevail, to be reformed. How democracy in America allow someone like Donald Trump to be in the power. And this dictator now is collapsing everything. Is collapsing women's rights everywhere, democracy rights everywhere, is collapsing the global order. So now I think we should stop talking about our local problems, because everything is collapsing. We have to be one hand to save the democracy in the democratic countries. We are the people who suffer from the authoritarian regimes. We tell you that we have to start from that point, because he is the inspirational of dictators everywhere. He is the inspirational of fascists everywhere. So this is our battle if we want really to win in our great victory that with this report and with this indication. For me as Tawakkul, my first battle now, not just to face the counter-revolution in my region, but to help American people, to help American women to restore the democracy there. And the same thing with the Western countries. You are in a very dangerous way. You have to save your democracy to save us, to save the humanity. Thank you.
Wow. Tabammul, thank you so much. You need to save your countries to save democracy globally. My goodness. We had so many people nodding. As Zarifa Ghaffari, you were nodding a lot. And I can see there's another microphone. I found the other microphone. Please, if you just give your reaction to that incredibly powerful speech. Zarifa is the former female mayor of Maidan Shakir in Afghanistan, one of the very few mayors in Afghanistan. That was where we need to go, isn't it?
Good morning. First of all, it's truly an honor to be in this room surrounded by women whose leadership, courage, and commitment have shaped history and continue to shape our future. Being part of this dialogue on women's progress alongside leaders, advocates, and friends whom I deeply admire and respect is really a honor. I was nodding with every sentence he was, my sister was like saying, and the way she was trying to express it. First of all, I'm also not, English is my fourth or fifth language, so I relate a little bit more, I connect a bit more with that statement, because it's really hard to express exactly what we want, but the way she expressed it, it was so beautiful. Exactly. Democracy is not born in parliaments. It's born in resistance. Today, countries like Afghanistan stands as one of the most urgent moral and political tests of our time. When women are banned from education, erased from public life, and punished simply for existing, silence is not neutrality, it's a political complicity. Afghan women journalists and human rights defenders are already practicing democracy under the most extreme oppression, often underground, often in exile, always at great personal risk. They are proving that democracy begins when fear is challenged and truth is organized, but courage without protection is not a strategy. It's abandonment. And today, while we are all here in this room speaking about democracy, human rights, and global responsibility, we must be honest, the way my sister have been, with ourselves and the ones who are listening to us and the ones who are following us. If this conversation ends without concrete decisions, then we are not observers, we are enablers, and this moment must not be symbolic. It must be operational, I think. And a call for action was clearly coming out of the statement that my sister was making. So, and just to add on every single note coming from her, that I totally agree. Nowadays, it's not about democracy, and in some countries where they are facing autocratic regimes, operations, and all that. It's about the world's democracy or democratic order, which is failing, and that's also about like those leaders who are supporting those autocratic regimes by the name of anything, including for safety of their own power and their own position. So starting today, democratic governments must also jointly commit to an emergency protection and mobility framework for everyone, including, I'll call it more for Afghan women and Afghan descendants and women human rights defenders. First, fast-track asylum, issue temporary travel documents, guarantee secure communication, access to banking, housing, employment, and all that. So I feel like this is the only way that we are able to support democratic, revolutions. If we continue doing the same that as my sister was talking about, like, setting those, big leaders like Donald Trump, like so many more, like Qatari leaders, like Arabic leaders who are always mostly talking about women's rights and everything, but then like the same Qatar is protecting and giving platform to Taliban and bringing them into, discussion tables and giving them more voice than women rights defenders. They've been giving them more platform and bigger platform than the ones who are standing against them and fighting the operation. And I feel like it's more important that we be equally clear that no recognition, no normalization, no engagement without condition is possible everywhere around the world when it comes to democratic values, against autocratic regimes. And it's more important that the leaders who are and it's important that we name it as there's a title, name it and shame it. I feel it's so important. We need to talk about it. One of the biggest issues nowadays with me personally is that we are facing a situation that mostly women are not getting the political, tier in a political decision table to speak out about everything, including what it comes around world orders. So it's important if we are having this chair and we are having this mic, so we dare and come out of that comfort zone and face it and tell it and say it and be so clear about it, that exactly it's not about the order, democratic orders into regions, into smaller countries, but it's about the global conflict, and it will be just solved as soon as we are able to come together and fight it with a clear mission and clear voice and talk about it much more clearer. And thank you so much for speaking this clear, that I don't think, and I was able to do it, so thank you. So I think she have been speaking mostly of what I wanted really to say.
That's great. That's absolutely great. Thank you.
Zarifa, thank you so much. And I think, we heard that
your passion, absolutely, and I think that resonates across the room. And the point about why we're here is, if you hear something, raise your hand. I want to go around everybody, but if there's something that you really, really want to come back on, then please do. Right, Vera Jourova, who was the Vice President of the European Commission for Values and Transparency and the European Commissioner for Justice. I know you want to get straight in there, so this is what it's all about. Please feel free. We're in a safe space to make a difference, please.
Thank you very much. I am so humbled to be here because it was so easy to do the gender equality agenda from comfortable office in Brussels, sitting here with real heroes. We did everything in the EU during last 10 years to address the issues. Pay gap, punishment for maternity, violence, online violence, low women representation. We all know about the issues. We used all the tools, strategy, action plan, legislation. The progress is very limited. I am not proud of it. Why? I will tell you where is my explanation. There is a big counter pressure, and here comes what Hillary Clinton mentioned and some of you. The new enemy came, which is the social media and AI. And I think that if there should be some concrete plan for the future, we have to realize that at this moment with AI, we are at the crossroads, because now the algorithms are being taught on the models which are not friendly to women. We still have only in Europe, 11% of women in some kind of managerial positions in the IT sector. But this is the place where the future is now being shaped, because the AI will be more and more deciding how we live and who has the respect and who has which chances in the society. So that's why I wanted to have 2 minutes here, because we must not underestimate this moment. This new enemy is also very strong in anti-democratic move. I can tell you, when I saw Mr. Trump's technological army standing at the day of his inauguration next to him, I know personally all these guys, because they had to negotiate with me the European legislation on digital sphere. And when I saw all of them, not all, Microsoft was not there, I think. When I saw standing them swearing loyalty to this new world boss, I realized this is the concentration of power which we might not survive. And here coming the comment about fascism and all those horrible things, which we know from the history. This is not alarming, this is a reality, and I think that we should focus on this sphere. Digital platforms and digital sphere is chasing the women out of public life. Politicians, journalists, leaders of the NGOs, you know the counter pressure and the violence against us when we have the courage to say something publicly. So digital sphere, and I am a technological optimist, but we should be aware of this, and maybe to concentrate our power, our voice on making the digital sphere and AI really fair. So it's about fairness. Last comment, I think the hell is full of women who are not supporting women.
Oh yeah, we know those.
Again, Madeleine Albright, I have to mention her because she was born in my country.
Thank you. And where in the world are we in a world where it's okay to have the kind of tech that takes your clothes off, and then if you complain, nothing happens? I just don't understand. Women, sisters, I've just been told we've only got another 25 minutes on this panel, so I'm really going to try and get around the room really, really quickly. If we can keep our questions, answers a little bit briefer, because we need some concrete decisions. We need a list of countries that are doing okay and that aren't. So I just want to focus in your minds. I'm going to come to you in a moment, but I just want to get Maria Alyokina, a Russian political activist. I want to get your thoughts. Let's pass the microphone down if we can, because Maria, you've got frontline experience in,
protesting, but short answers. And I just want something, what you want to get out of here, because we're all sitting around, we all know the problems. What do you want us to do? Microphone, please. Shout, shout. We can hear you. Project your voice. Okay, well, look, while we get up.
Wait. I think I want to mention Ms. Clinton's speech yesterday and say thank you for mentioning a lot a problem which Putin created for the world. And for 4 years already, the war is going on against Ukraine, and I want to say that it's not just a conflict in Eastern Europe, it's basically a declaration of the war to the Western world. And also the situation of the influence of Putin's state and connection of this regime with right parties, ultra-right parties and politicians in the West is like really, really alarming. What I witnessed, and I left the country in April of 2022 to help Ukraine. I desperately didn't want to do that. So for 10 years, I was witnessing the situation of step-by-step oppression, which somehow started, in my case, from my imprisonment. And basically, somehow, Pussy Riot became first artists, activists, women who got the real prison term for peaceful protest, actually. So I had a lot of time to think why, and how we freaked out them to make this real term, happen. And I understood that it's basically one of the reasons is our gender somehow. So there is no totalitarian regime or dictatorship which is not oppressing women. It doesn't exist. It doesn't matter which religion we're talking about or which nation we're talking about. It's always oppressed. Totalitarian regimes and dictators always oppress women. So that means that we are the power, and somehow in this time of global change, and it's definitely a change, and it's definitely a turn to the right, we should think how to recreate this collaboration, because there are a lot of differences, and there are a lot of differences.
Maria, thank you. And what you say is strong. Dictators are scared of women. That's it, So let's use our power. Let's absolutely use our power because, the fight is on, right? Thank you. Thank you for your words. Thank you. Let's go back to this side of the room because Tamara Kaufman-Weitz, president of the National Democracy Institute, again, just reminding you, let's keep it tight because we need to get some tangible conclusions out of this that Hillary will then feed back.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be at the table with so many women I admire. Democracy is for everyone, and that is why these fights cannot be separated. That is why dictators, as Hillary said last night, the first thing they do is they talk about who is us and who is not us. And a lot of them try to say that men are us and women are not us. But even in democratic societies, we face barriers. All of you have faced barriers. And so I think it's important as we consider ratings or judgments that we recognize every country needs to make progress. There's no one we can let off the hook here. One of the things that the National Democratic Institute has learned in the 25 years of work that we have done on gender inclusion in politics is that rooms full of incredibly impressive women are not enough. We have to engage in those societies that are democratic, that have political openings. We have to engage men on the power that they wield. And we've developed a whole program around that work. Secondly, we women in this room, with the power we hold, have to make sure that we're bringing women up behind us. And it is a special privilege to be sitting at a table with a woman who used to be my boss, Secretary Clinton, because you have always done that. But at NDI, we work with girls as young as 12 to build civic engagement and skills, because we need to make sure that there are people ready to carry on that fight, and that the young men they are growing up with see strong women every day.
That is so strong. That is so strong. I'll come to you in a moment, Jennifer. How many times has the ladder been pulled up when you're just getting there? I mean, I'm sick of it, absolutely sick of it. Sandrine Dixon de Clèves, co-president of the Club of Rome. You've got some tangibles, and I'm just going to give this to you. Is that all right?
It is all right. Thank you so much. Ladies, hearing your stories of oppression, especially for those of us who live in the West, is always incredibly powerful. And of course, we need to figure out how we can actually bring in those stories of oppression to make sure that our own countries don't start moving in the same direction. So this is exactly what I want to talk about, that every country needs to make progress. I am a European American, and I'm a systems thinker, and I unlock patterns and trends. And what I'm very troubled with is we haven't talked about the growing masculinity issue. In talking about my book, Earth for All, A Survival Guide for Humanity, one of our turnarounds in system dynamic modeling around the economics and political shifts that we need to see is empowerment. But when I've been speaking around countries across the globe, I have received so much backlash from young men who have asked me, why do we continuously need to hear about gender equality and female empowerment? This is a growing movement that we are indeed seeing in the United States. So my call and my plea is that we unpack the trends, both economic, political, and also geopolitical, in the way in which we're seeing the power games. I speak about the 3 Ps, which is power, profit, and patriarchy, and apologies, sometimes I say the penis effect. And I truly do believe that this is the problem, and we need to shift to people, planet, and prosperity. We now, for the first time ever through the UNDP report, have been told that human progress is moving backwards, not forwards. So we need to make the link between how we are actually shifting backwards. We do not have economic indicators that take into consideration the importance of gender. We need to include those indicators. We currently have at the UN level, OECD level, and across Europe, a new thinking around beyond GDP indicators, which would enable us to ensure that certain indicators actually do take in not only gender, but the importance of women in the economy and the importance of women in politics.
Sandrine, thank you so much. Sandrine, thank you. So I love the 3 Ps. That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. And the patriarchy, masculinity as well. Jennifer Cunningham, Newsweek editor-in-chief. You've got the mic.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you here today. And I really hope today is a turning point where transparency becomes transformation and recognition becomes responsibility. The freedom and prosperity of the world will depend on the equality and freedom of women. I really wanted to chime in here for something that struck me by what you said, Tamara. We can't let the so-called green countries off the hook. The West, New York City, where I grew up and made my career, because women in these countries are still being marginalized and put on the sidelines every single day. I run a newsroom. I'm editor-in-chief of Newsweek. I can count on my fingers how many women are in similar positions in the United States and in the United Kingdom, where we do a lot of business. It is negligible. It is abysmal. And for me to get to this point, I know they talk about glass ceilings. I had to smash through a concrete slab in order to get where I am. And everything was a fight, and having to deal with sexism, with racism, all of the isms. This was my reality. And so I don't want, and there's also the issue of maternity care and maternity leave and the lack thereof. In the United States, it is abysmal. I have an 18-month-old son, and I took 8 weeks off, which is not right. And so I want to make sure that in these discussions that we're having, that we are not assuming that the countries that are in the West, the countries that are so-called in the green, are bastions of women's equality, because in many cases, it's a lot more nuanced than that. Thank you.
Jennifer, thank you. And we're looking, absolutely, we're looking at the actions and notices, and in the green, the United Kingdom, I mean, the pay gap in the UK from personal experience is abysmal. So why is that in the green? Right, Seyran Atis, German lawyer, women's rights activist, a few minutes, and just call out the nations that need to focus, but please.
I'd like to share my thoughts. Thank you for all your comments, and I agree with many of the things. And I would like to make another point, maybe a different point from my point of view as a liberal Muslim, as a founder of a liberal mosque, and as a lawyer fighting for women's rights all my life. So what happened when I started a liberal mosque, or when I'm fighting against political Islam, is that unfortunately I'm facing with not far right, because the far right is anyway a danger for women's rights, is what we pointed out on one side. But in my life, all my life, since 19 years living under police protection, I was not attacked from the far right. I'm continuously attacked by left wings and feminists. They call me Islamophobe, they call me racist, they call me anti-feminist, because I'm not wearing a headscarf, because I opened a mosque where men and women are praying together, where women are leading the prayer without headscarf and praying and preaching without headscarf. Why I mentioned that is that there is a very curious, and I don't understand why, obsession on the left wing for headscarf and supporting so-called headscarf Islam. I don't have any problems with my headscarf sisters fighting for democracy. I don't have any kind of problems with headscarf of women and hijabis coming to our mosque. They are welcome, we are friends, we are sisters fighting for democracy. But when it comes to women's rights of liberal Muslims, when it comes to fight against political Islam, I see myself attacked by my former friends. I'm from the left wing. I'm a feminist. They try to kill me because I'm fighting for women's rights in Islam. I'm fighting for spiritual. So I would love to share that with you, and I'm very sure that we have to put also the focus on this issue and topics, and have much more discussions about solidarity among the feminists. And where's the solidarity for the women in Iran, for example? You have seen, while the revolution was running and women and men were killed on the streets in Iran, I didn't see all the left wings and Vox, etc., fighting for free Palestine and and shouting anti-Semitism statements on the streets in Berlin, especially. I didn't see all those people standing up. Thousands of them are here in the city. They were not standing up for the rights of the women fighting in Iran for women's rights. And these women, they are not fighting for Trump, for USA, for Israel, whatever. They are fighting for their own rights. And that's what I'm doing, that's what we are doing in our little fantastic mosque. We are fighting for our rights. And nobody from Western countries or somewhere else is dictating us to sing and want freedom, to sing about freedom, speak about freedom. What does it mean to be gender equal? Nobody has to tell me that. This is my feeling, these are my emotions, like in Taliban Afghanistan. Nobody is sending books to the women to say, be a Western style woman, whatever. No. What they are doing is standing up for their own rights. So maybe the focus is good to have the focus to the people who are enemies of democracy. But we should not forget that in our own lines, we have so many fights, and we have so many fights and so many gap of solidarity among the feminists and among the left wing as well. Thank you.
It's such a strong point. We're fighting each other. We're fighting each other, and it wastes time. Seema Sama, former Vice President of Afghanistan. I'm just going to do this.
Thank you so much. And I'm so proud to be among our sisters and friends for fighting for democracy. I would like to mention a few points. One, I think we have to fight for democracy in every battle, not only with political Islam or political religion, but also within our own families against patriarchy, because patriarchy is in rise everywhere. Number two, I think we have to be united, because we cannot speak of democracy in green countries if still we have the violation of women's rights, even if it's the difference between the pay gap in so-called democratic countries and green countries. And that is the reality that we have to acknowledge. The third point, I think, we also should not normalize the violation of human rights because of the geography, because of the religion, because of the political system within that country, if it's Yemen, if it's Afghanistan, if it's anywhere else. So we need to stand against violation of human rights, because violation of human rights of women is not only violation of half of the people, it's a violation of humanity, rights of humanity or dignity of human beings, and it goes to everyone. The other point that I would like to mention is that we need to stand against impunity in violation of human rights anywhere and everywhere. Because if we do not do that, injustice will continue, and this world will not be just for women and not be safe for women as half of the population. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. I'm going to be really quick. Roshan Abbas now, Uyghur American activist and advocate. If you say a few words, let's keep it brief so we can get some. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity, because not many people around the world speak against China's crimes and not mention what's happening to Uyghur women, and it's not being covered in the mainstream media. As part of China's genocide against the Uyghur people in Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, our ethnicity is outlawed, our language is banned, and our religion is criminalized. Honorable Madam Secretary, 31 years ago, after your historic and powerful remarks in Beijing, China has betrayed its commitment to women's equality and dignity. Today, with its genocidal campaign, China's basically waging a war on Uyghur women and the children through this ongoing genocide, mocking the very principles of the 1995 declaration. The true battleground of this genocide is being Uyghur women's bodies, with forced marriages, forced sterilization, forced abortions. And the Chinese government state media reported that 1.1 million Han Chinese cadres, mostly male, deployed into Uyghur homes, live inside of their homes. And most of Uyghur men are taken to the concentration camps or forced labor facilities or detention centers. Uyghur women, sisters and daughters are subject to sexual abuse inside of their own homes. The Uyghur birth rate dropped down to 0% in some of the most Uyghurs populated areas. And Chinese embassy in United States publicly celebrated those efforts by saying Uyghur women are no longer baby-making machines. My rights under democracy in a free country cost my own sister's freedom back home. By September 2018, 24 members of my husband's family, he's here with me, his mother, all of his sisters, and the 14 of his nieces and nephews were taken. And then when I talked about this, in the Hudson Institute, participated on public panel, 7.5 years ago, they took my sister as a hostage from her home, a retired medical doctor. She's serving unjustly in prison because of my freedom. This is what we call transnational repression, a foreign power reaching across the ocean to target American citizens or Western citizens in their soil by holding their family members hostage. The global economy is fueled by state-sponsored Uyghur forced labor under the guise of poverty alleviation. Millions of Uyghurs, including the doctors, professors, students, and the farmers are shipped thousands of miles away. Just last year, there was a report, 2023, 3.2 million Uyghurs are subject to forced labor, transferred to China proper, dismantling Uyghur families. The CCP profits, the Beijing profits from every part of the Uyghurs' bodies. 13 tons of human hair, how many lives does that represent? Was shipped to United States, and it was confiscated at the Border Patrol in the US, but not many major media reported that. And the Uyghurs are basically making the shoes on your foot and the car you drive, the food you eat, and my sister may have made the shirt on your back. We cannot allow the products of genocide to launder through our borders. We stand at the crossroads of global trade and human dignity today. We owe to our children to build a world free from where freedom is not a luxury but a guarantee. And the silence is the oxygen of tyranny, and I refuse to stay silent. Please speak out today, otherwise the only voice left will be one of regret. Thank you.
Incredibly strong. We've gone back in time to medieval times, haven't we? We've got a society that's based on slavery. Thank you so much, Roshan. Mimi Kodeli, Chairman of the Committee of Foreign Affairs for the Albanian Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear sister in arms with the lipsticks. I'm not here to say that I used to be the first female Minister of Defense of my country. I'm not here to say that I proposed the first woman as a general of the Albanian army. I'm not here to say that the first thing I did as a minister, I built up a kindergarten for special kids, like kids with autism or not of the armed forces parents. But I'm here to tell you just a little story, not the big stories of the countries you're coming from, if I may. Nishemi in Sicily is a small town, pretty small, falling down day after day. A woman was allowed to enter for some minutes in her own apartment in order to take just some personal stuff. She came out without nothing into her hands. She was asked why you enter in such a high-risk place? And she said, well, I just wanted to smell the perfume of my house, which used to be the perfume of a safe place. We need to have safe places so we can develop democracy and our future. And I'm ending by saying, between 20 and 23, 8 in 10 peace talks had no women involved. Despite proven impact, women remain shut out of peace and democratic processes. So I'm ending by something that Hillary Clinton said in Beijing. We have to come together more and more, otherwise we are lost. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Mimi, thank you so much. Can I ask you just to pass the microphone over to Manija Bakhtari, the last female ambassador of Afghanistan? I'm conscious that we're low on time, and I'll make sure everybody gets to say something, but we need some tangible focuses for Hillary afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. I just immediately dive to the subject. You know that since August 2021, Afghanistan has faced segregation, discrimination, and gender apartheid. And this is not a collection of isolated incidents. This is not a cultural practice. It's a political system designed to erase women from public life, from political participation. And I think I don't need to report to you that girls are banned from secondary and higher education. Women cannot go to their offices. And even access to healthcare are restricted or blocked. And you know, these are not accidental policies. They are instruments of repression in my country. And the wider context, however, remains deeply troubling because, you know, Afghanistan faces overlapping crises, economic, humanitarian, and environmental and security related, and of course illicit drugs and illicit drug production and trafficking have evolved, including the expansion of synthetic drugs. And of course, all these factors impact the situation of women and girls in Afghanistan. Millions remain displaced, and restrictive Taliban policies have pushed the country into unprecedented isolation. But I want to be brave. Still, our women have not surrendered. They are fighting against this restrictive and draconian policies of the Taliban. They continue to organize, document, speak, teach, and support one another. And their resilience is profound, but resilience alone is not enough. They need international solidarity, they need legal accountability and principled diplomacy. You know, what is happening in Afghanistan should not become a new norm. Something that the world is expected to accept in silence. No, it should not happen. If the systematic denial of rights in Afghanistan is tolerated today, should it also be considered acceptable if similar things happens elsewhere in the world? Accepting the situation sets a dangerous precedent, a dangerous layout, one that undermines the universality of human rights declaration and weakens global accountability. And we request international community's unwavering commitment to uphold the principles of international law, including United Nations charters, CEDAW, and all other relevant conventions that we are collectively bound to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We've got still 2 women yet to speak. Can we start thinking about which countries we want on top of our list so that we can then pass them to Hillary so she can feed it back to the forum? And maybe one thing that you genuinely want to see that could possibly make a difference, and that's not just eliminating men on this planet. Yasmin Mohammed, because that's not what this is about, creator of the No Hijab group. In the few words, what would you share with us?
Thank you so much, Kasia. First of all, Secretary Clinton, thank you so much for inviting me here, all of you. This is an absolute honor to be in the same room with you wonderful women. As Svetlana said, there's a special place in history for women who support women. So I am very honored to be here amongst you all, and I hope that the women here will continue to support other women. And I actually want to echo a bit of what Seyran was saying. Women like myself and Seyran and other liberal, freedom-loving voices from the Middle East and North Africa, from Islamic theocracies, we're fighting a two-pronged battle. We are stuck in between, obviously, the theocrats on one side who want us dead, who tell us to cover our hair and cover our mouth and to stay quiet because our voices are awra. Awra means shameful. That's why in countries like Afghanistan, women can't even speak because the Taliban say that a woman's voice is a shame that needs to be hidden. So that's what we're fighting on the right. And then on the left, unfortunately, what happens to us is we are silenced, we are ignored, we are called Islamophobes, we are called bigots, et cetera, for telling our stories, for trying to share our personal traumas, for trying to fight for the women, millions and millions of women around these countries, around the world, whose voices cannot be heard. They're living in situations where there is no way that you will be able to hear what they think or what they feel. And so when we are out here literally risking our lives, trying to share their stories, trying to share our stories, we're silenced by our sisters on the left. And that's what I'm here to beg of you today. I beg of you, we are the minorities within the minorities. And when you hear us trying to tell our stories, please do not silence us. Please do not ignore us. Please stand with us. We are fighting with you against this misogyny. You're absolutely correct, Jennifer. It is a spectrum. Obviously, there are fights all across the globe. Women are fighting these issues all over the world. But if you look at the list of red countries, what do you see there? There is a glaring common denominator. There is a glaring common thread, and that is Islam. That is political Islam, right? And that is what we are trying to fight against. And when you fight against your theocrats, when you're fighting against Christian nationalists, we stand with you. We understand the dangers of that, and we hope that you will stand with us as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Amplify the voice. So let's hear the voice of Angelina Usanova, a UN Goodwill Ambassador for Ecology and the Environment. Just a very brief statement because we must focus in on what we're going to do about all of this.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Again, it's my pleasure. It's my honor to be here, and my deep respect to the work and to your strength that you're doing in your countries. It's extremely important right now. I will be short, but I will try to be precise. Woman is not born to be oppressed, suppressed, or depressed. Women are born as creators. We are born as leaders. We are here to bring the life forth. We are the future. We are this bridge. And it's a basic human right that when society abuses, the whole world collapses. So what we are doing right now, we are fighting for the future of the whole humanity. So the future generation of women can live in a democratic, equal world where both men and women have the same rights, the same power, but they're not fighting each other, but they work in collaboration. And coming from the country of Ukraine, being born and raised there, it's the perfect example what happens to a country when it's led by the oligarchs. There is no place for women power. There is a place for war, there's a place for military attempt to negotiate. There's no female role in the society. There's no peace. So my main message would be here is we have to keep fighting as women and remember that the men who are doing this, horrible things to the planet, to the society, to women are actually not real men. Because real men, they support women, they support our empowerment, they support the democracy, they stand behind us. So what we are finding here, are men who are lost. And we have an absolute right to go after what we know belongs to us. We go after the future of this planet, the future of the next generations, and we have to claim our power back, because that's what we are born to do here. Thank you.
Angelina, thank you so much. That's incredible. And if you think about it, at the Munich Security Conference, Hillary, you heard this, Svetlana, you heard this. We had Marco Rubio questioning climate measures. I mean, you know, we're turning into a war economy, a war world. Countries are now just braced upon making money through buying American arms. How have we got to this? Natalie Haller, who has made the film about Manisha Bakhtari, Last Ambassador, the microphone should be with you. A sentence or two, and then let's get working.
Yeah, hello. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a mother, and I feel I have the obligation not to remain silent. I made this film about Manisha Bakhtari, the Last Ambassador, because I needed to break this silence about millions of women and girls in Afghanistan. And I think this is what we all have to do. We have to break, as you say, we have to break the silence. And the world is now normalizing the relationship with the Taliban. I'm Austrian just last week, and I think the Taliban are still there, or at least they were there last week in Austria, in a democratic, in a green country. We have to stop this. We have to stop these double standards. We have to do whatever is in our hands to stop double standards and to break the silence. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for keeping it brief. Sisters, this has been absolutely incredible. What are we doing, right? Hillary, what are we doing? What are you going to tell them downstairs? Otherwise, we know all this, right? Otherwise, it's just a talking shop. We need to work out whether you guys meet, whether you nominate somebody. You have not got the time to do this once a month, do you? But we need to keep the momentum. So what are we doing here?
Well, first of all, thanks to everybody, and thanks to raising this incredible, comprehensive list of issues and concerns, because I do think everybody does need to be heard. Silence is our enemy. Voices are our tools. And what I would suggest, and I'm very grateful to the World Forum for convening this, is that we do continue the conversation. We will do it in conjunction with the World Forum, but I also believe we need, as you suggested, Kasia, a secretariat so that the work of following up with each of you, writing up the specific concerns you have, making sure that we are not overlooking any of these issues, and then figuring out how best to approach it. We will take that on at Columbia University, at the School of International and Public Affairs, at the Institute for Global Politics, where I am based and where I teach. We issued a report last year to mark the 30 years of progress and pushback since the Beijing Convention. So we have the background, we have the tools, we have the existing analysis. So what we will do is, probably convene this group by Zoom once we figure out how best to organize ourselves. And then we will work on a report that goes beyond even where we were last year on the 30 years post-Beijing, because so many of these points need to be expanded and deepened. And, I especially would raise the issue about what do we do about young men, and about the organized effort to weaponize young men's feelings that they are somehow in a zero-sum game. So if women who are getting prepared and educated, moving out into the arenas of employment and politics and security and all the other areas of a society's public use of power, if that happens, then somehow they're left behind. And that is a deliberate message that is carried by influential voices to create this competition and conflict so that young men feel that if young women advance, that they somehow are left behind. That isn't, the goal, that isn't the reality, but it is something we have to contend with. Secondly, I think it's really important to have specific plans of action and strategies. I mean, what might work to raise the visibility of the abuses against the Uyghurs may not work in Yemen, but we have to figure out what are the best ways, the best arguments to make. What are the best media outlets? How do we take back the online space? Because whoever mentioned this earlier is 100% right. The amount of misogyny, the virulent attacks on women online is out of control. And it is being used to silence women and push women back, and to normalize the kind of misogyny that is unfortunately growing. So I will take this on to follow up with all of you and to figure out how we take all of these personal experiences and translate them into actionable items, whether it's, in our individual countries or through multilateral institutions or international groups like the Club of Rome and others. How do we make this an agenda? So I think, Kasia, that's my pledge to all of you, and we will follow up with you.
Do you want to, Hillary, do you want to nominate a speaker? Do you want to get all of these formidable women in this room to bring along more incredible women? Is that...
Well, I think we should start with the women in this room and come up with our own sort of outline of what we've heard and how we would proceed. And then I think, look, ideally we would grow a movement where, women across the political spectrum, right to left, women internationally, would be willing to speak out on basic, understandable points that, women's equality, justice for women, women's roles in their societies, it should not be debatable. And the most extreme examples, like we see with the Taliban in Afghanistan or the murder of women who take off their headscarves in Iran, those have to be seriously addressed because they are so barbaric. But we also can't forget that there are obstacles to women, as we heard from the European Commission, in even advanced so-called economies and societies. So somehow we have to link the ends of the spectrum. We can't say that equal pay for equal work is more important than what's happening in Iran and Afghanistan. They're equally assaults on the rights of women to fulfill their own destiny, to chart their own courses, to take responsibility for themselves. So that's the language we've got to work on. And I think we have to work on it within this group and then figure out how to take it to a higher level of visibility and amplification.
Absolutely. Here. Can we have a... Yes, go on. Go.
I think also we should also include the women in Gaza. Women who've been killed, it is not just women, with headscarf or with the women that have been killed under war and under also war crime. It's very important to mention them and to take care about women there.
And thank you. And yeah, absolutely right. Look, women, multi-skilling, we have to go. We're needed downstairs. Typical, we do 3 things at the same time. Thank you, everybody. There's an awful lot of food for thought. You are all amazing. Thank you for sharing your voices. And Hillary, thank you for progressing this on. Thank you, guys. See you all downstairs.